information. Jay, you gave me some ideas that I'm going to use as soon as tonight. So I appreciate that. And now that we're recording that, I want to give you another shout out. Thank you so much for all that you do for small business owners and for having me here tonight. Let's jump into the presentation. And Ed, if I can get a thumbs up from you, just want to make sure that everybody can see that.
You're good.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, as Ed mentioned, we're going to be talking about small business, big results, productivity principles that pay off. Before we jump into the program, um, our host here, Ed, is a little bit humble. I saw this online, so I do want to give a shout out to Score Fox Valley. As you can see on the screen, they were not only regional chapter of the year, but also district chapter of the year. So, want to give them a big round of applause and a shout out. We are dealing with the very best here tonight. So, congratulations to Fox Valley Score. Some of the goals of the training here tonight, we want to make this year different than any other year in your business. We want to resist and fight the pull of yesterday. So, we have about 6 months left to go in 2025. What you're going to hear tonight, you can use that to make, again, this the most productive year in your career. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to achieve more by doing less. One of the biggest mistakes that I see out there is people keep adding, and adding to their day. The high achievers, the best producers, they have found out how to eliminate and subtract things from their day, but to maximize their productivity. We're going to jump into that here this evening. And of course, we want to have a lot of fun. If we're going to spend time doing it, we're definitely going to enjoy ourselves along the way. Other expectations, I'm going to stretch you. I'm going to stretch you mentally and also physically, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But at the end of this presentation, I want your mind to have been expanded. And I look at the mind as like a rubber band. When we stretch our mind far enough, it does not go back to its original shape. That is one of my goals here tonight. Also, in expectations, as was mentioned, we want to have it somewhat interactive. There will be opportunities to ask questions along the way. We are going to stop of my formal presentation. You can ask a question there. But if there's something that you want to know, feel free to jump in. This is about you, not about me. Anything you want to know that pertains to this presentation, feel free to ask. All right, we're going to do a quick warm up. I know the cameras are off, but if you would do it along with me, we're going to do a quick warm up because when it comes to productivity, it follows energy. We must have energy in order to be productive. Here in Chicagoland, where I'm coming from, it's about 6:45, 6:50. It's at the end of the day. For a lot of us, at the end of the day, we have that energy dip. So the mind body is connected. We're going to do a quick ho, ho, ha, 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 yeah. So I'm going to do it once. Again, you can do it wherever you're at. You go ho, ho, ha, 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 yeah. We're just going to warm up the mind and body so that we can receive. On three, 1, 2, 3. Ho, ho, ha, 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 yeah. Ho, ho, ha, 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 yeah. Last time. Ho, ho, ha, 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 yeah. All right. I'm willing to bet that you feel a little more energetic than before. So anytime you want to be productive and raise that energy level, this is a great exercise. Why are we here tonight? Well, unfortunately, it's because we have a crisis when it comes to entrepreneurship and small businesses. As you can see on the screen, is uh, this is the failure rate that we see in businesses first year, fifth year, and by the 10th year. So as you can see there, in the first year, almost a quarter of businesses fail. By the fifth year, it's almost 50%. By year 10, up to 70%. If you can make it past a decade, you're usually good, but we need to change this. How? By being more productive. So let's jump into it. If you look at that picture right there, that, my friends, is what we call swirl, something that is very unproductive. If you've been in business for any length of time, you may have been in an office setting like this where there's a lot going on, but a little getting done. It's chaos. I like to call it octopus on roller skates. There's no clarity. People are moving fast, doing a lot of things, but they're not getting a lot done and they're not being productive, which leads people to say, I've just got too much to do and too little time to do it. How many of us have said that along the way? Pretty much everybody. So the goal is to reduce swirl. And how do we reduce swirl? Well, again, it's having clarity of our day and having a direction. The biggest challenge I see when it comes to people getting ready for their day is they use the strategy of just hoping that things will work out. Well, hope is not a strategy when it comes to productivity. Productivity is by design, not by default. You're either preparing for your day or you're repairing your day. I promise you, it takes a lot longer to repair an unproductive day than to prepare for it. So let's give you an example here. I just got back 2 days ago from Orlando, Florida. My wife and 3 kids and I, we went out there for a summer vacation. We went to see Epic Universe, Universal Studios. It was a great time. Now, to continue the analogy, before we left for that trip, we did what you probably did. We planned. We had a direction on what we wanted to do and where we wanted to go. So much we actually used a third-party company, to design our trip. We knew what we were going to do, where we were going to go, what we were going to wear, how we wanted to feel. Everything was designed. Yet we don't see that in our day. Think back to when you got your driver's license. Now, for me, that was back in the early 90s. I'll never forget, I was 16 years old and I found myself in the middle of Chicago driving around. Now, this is before GPS, cell phones, and I had no map. So, and if you've ever driven in Chicago, you know that it's a series of one-way streets. It's a grid that if you get lost, you're going in the wrong direction, just going in a circle. And that what was happening to me. I had no direction. So the first law when it comes to productivity is we must have direction. That's how we were going to reduce the swirl. So we have to design our day. Every night before you go to bed, I'm going to ask you to ask yourself this question. What do you want your ideal day to look like? And I want you to imagine how you want to feel, what you're going to be doing, what you're going to accomplish, how you're going to interact with others. In other words, I want you to remember your future. And many of you are probably thinking, what? Remember your future? What is that? Well, when you remember your past, you've already lived it. When you remember your future, you've already lived it mentally. Now, I love the game of golf. I'm not good at it, but I love it. And if you ever watch golf, you'll notice that every single golfer and these are the best in the world, they do the exact same thing before they take a shot. What they'll do is they'll step behind the golf ball and they'll visualize the shot. They'll visualize the swing, how the ball is going to fly, the trajectory, how it's going to land, how it's going to roll. And they do that because it works. You look at any performer, they practice the law of visualization. I want you to do the same thing when it comes to designing your productive day. Visualize it as being successful and you going through that day. In addition, it's also important to be flexible and adaptive. So yes, I want you to have direction to your day, but as we all know, things come up. You get that angry customer on the phone. You have to drop everything, deal with that situation. If you're like me, I have 3 kids, they're all in school. I might be driving into work or going to see a customer. I get the principal's office on the phone. Little Joey is sick or is throwing up. You need to come get him, right? I'm sure you've been there. We have to adapt and stay flexible. How do we do that? It's what I call planned spontaneity. So we structure our day by designing it, but then we need to step out of that structure when needed. And this is what's great about planned spontaneity. This is where the magic happens. Because when we have interruptions, many of us get irritated, frustrated. I'm going to have you switch that. The next time you're interrupted in your day that you've planned, look at it as a gift. Because when we have to engage in spontaneity, that's when we can tap into our collaborative efforts, our innovation, our ingenuity. I'll give you an example. I played 2 years of college basketball. And my job as the point guard was to dribble the ball up and run pre-designed plays. But anyone who's played sports or follows sports knows that even though you may call a play, many times it breaks down. The defense, they'll change their defensive scheme, or the person you want to pass the ball to isn't open. And my job was to have spontaneity and to switch the play on the fly. And what I found is when I had to get creative and innovate on a broken play, that was the most time that we would score. We would score more on the broken plays and have more success on those than on the pre-designed plays. So to recap this section, pre-design your day, remember your future, but have that spontaneity to step out of that structure. Use your creativity to take care of whatever comes up and then step right back into it. Let's jump into the premier productivity principle. And Ed alluded to this a little bit when you get all of the resources from SCORE, but it is to study successful people. Now, my personal belief is there is no secret to success and there's no shortcut to being a success in business or in life. But if I had to give you one thing that could shorten the learning curve, it is to study successful people. There's a Chinese proverb that says, how do you know the way forward? Well, you study the people coming back. That is what we want to do. Study success, the people that have been there before you, the people that have already done what you're looking to do. This is one of the most significant tips I can give you when it comes to productivity. Now, when we don't engage in this, bad things can happen. Now, I'm going to share a very brief video clip just to mix things up a little bit of what happens when you just try and wing it, when you don't have a design, you don't study what has worked in the past. Enjoy this. It's just probably about 15 seconds. All right, now can you imagine being the bride watching your wedding cake fall? But they didn't have a plan. They didn't study success. They didn't know how to carry that cake. And that, unfortunately, is the attitude that a lot of small business owners take when it comes to their day. I'm going to share with you a cautionary tale. And this is a tale that is personal to me because it is about me. What you're looking on the screen there is the very first business that I purchased at age 24. I am 52 now. I've purchased and owned many businesses throughout my career. This is the very first one, a Tasty Freeze. It is like a Dairy Queen, but a little bit different. But that's the actual picture. You gotta love the wood paneling on the bottom, right? But when I came out of college, on paper, I was labeled as being very smart and intelligent. I did well in school. I was good at taking tests. And it said, okay, that I was smart. But as we know, life isn't lived on paper. And what we do in the classroom is much different than what we do in the marketplace. When I bought that Tasty Freeze at age 24, I was handed two things: the keys to open the door and a success manual. Because I thought I knew everything, because I had success in college, I kept the keys and I tossed the manual. Because I thought, again, I knew how to run a business. Snow cones, root beer floats, banana splits, easy, right? In the 15 teenage employees that I inherited from the previous owner, I thought, no problem. Well, I soon found out that those 15 teenagers were very hormonal teenagers. Problem. And because I didn't study the manual, I had many problems. And I'm going to share with you the biggest one right now. I'll never forget it. It was a Saturday in July, 86 degrees, perfect conditions for selling ice cream. I had a line of customers 3 blocks long all the way down the street. I was working the grill at the time. Order comes in for a double cheeseburger. I grab the 2 patties, the cheese. I grill it up perfectly, perfectly juicy. Excellent. Then I grab the condiments, put the mayo, grab the lettuce, tomato, get the buns, put it in a bag, send it out the door. 45 seconds later, I hear this blood curdling scream. Now, have you ever picked up a piece of wood or a rock and all the insects and bugs underneath it just scramble? Well, that's exactly what happened to my customers when that scream let out. So I'm thinking, what's happening here? I run out the back door, and there's a customer staring at me with the metal twist tie stuck in between his 2 front teeth. Now, you want to talk about damage control? Thank goodness social media did not exist back in the early to mid 90s when I owned the Tasty Freeze. I knew that I had to start changing how I was running my business. And I went over to that success manual that I threw in the corner, and I opened it up, turned it to chapter 1, page 3, because I was thinking the same thing that you may be thinking. How did a twist tie get in his 2 front teeth? And there was my answer right on that page. It said, do not put buns on top of condiments. Twist tie could fall into lettuce. Apparently, that has happened before. So that story is to prove a very valuable point. Study those that are the most successful in your field and do what they are doing, and then you can be a disruptor. So I sold the Tasty Freeze 4 years after that for a very nice profit because, again, I changed how I thought, my actions, and I changed my business. And for the last 21 years, I've had 2 careers, one in professional speaking and training, and the second one in financial services. On the screen, you can see the words LPL Financial. That is the broker dealer that I clear with. TS Financial is the company that I work for and represent. But when you look at LPL Financial, they are the largest independent broker dealer in the United States. Currently, they manage over $4 trillion in assets. And the very first day that I signed on with LPL Financial, I thought to myself, okay, Eric, what can I do to be the most productive person I can be and to make sure I don't make the mistakes that I did with the Tasty Freeze? Well, I sought out the #1 producing rep in all of LPL Financial, which has tens of thousands of independent advisors. And this gentleman's name was Ron Carson. He was located out of Omaha, Nebraska. And on my own dime, I bought an airplane ticket. I flew out to Omaha to spend 3 days with Ron and his team to learn everything from how he started his day, the way he interacted with customers, what he did in terms of training and investments, how he built a team, everything. And on the very last day, I was having lunch with Ron, and I said, Ron, if you could give me one thing that is the key to your productivity. Again, this is a 27-time #1 producer at this company. If you could give me one thing, what would that be? He said, Eric, if you want to be a superhero in business, do the Super 6, which is this. Identify the 6 most important things that you need to accomplish in any given day and work on those first. So list them in order of importance because he said, Eric, productivity comes from priorities. The biggest mistake people make is they create that to-do list and they work as fast as they can to try and get to that to-do list. Wrong. How many of us actually get through that to-do list? It causes swirl like we talked about. It's about identifying the most important things, attacking those, and that is where we become productive. So let's take a look at what I call the 10-minute miracle. If you just spend 10 minutes a day working on your Super Six, I promise you, you will save at least 10 hours a week. Here's what it looks like. The night before, brain dump everything that you have to do on a piece of paper, all the tasks. Then rank them in order of importance, the six most important things. And I get this all the time. Well, Eric, what if I don't have six? No problem. If it's four, do four, three, five, whatever it is, but six is a good number, no more. Identify one through six in order of importance, and then time box it on your calendar. Critical step that a lot of people miss. Because if we don't put it on our calendar, it gets lost in the busyness of the day. And then go to work. This right here is worth the entire seminar of the 10-minute miracle. We're going to jump into the 6 laws of productivity in the time we have left. And Ed, if there's any questions at this time, we can open it up, or I'm kind of on a roll. We can keep going. So if there's questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into the 6 laws of productivity.
Hang on a second, Eric. I'm just looking.
You bet.
Eric, everybody is absorbing this at an extraordinary rate. There is no questions, but we'll
Great.
get your test at the end of this, folks. But if there's anybody here want to raise your hand real quickly while we're kind of taking a pause, go ahead and do that. Or if anybody has any questions about what Eric said, please go ahead and do that. We want to try to make this interactive.
Mhm.
If not, Eric is on a roll. So let him keep on a roll, folks. And I got one person raise their hand. Luke John, if you'd like to unmute yourself, please talk, please.
All right. So, Eric, I would like to ask you the same question you asked that guy today. Is like, what is the one thing that you would? Is it still the same that you heard, or what is the one key to productivity that you do and helps you the most?
Sure. It does come down to priorities. If you look at what Stephen Covey put out in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about, the jar and putting the big rocks in the jar first. And if you put big rocks in a jar, you'll notice that it's full. And those are the most important things that we have to do. But then you can still add to that jar, and then you put in the pebbles. And those are the things like the emails, the voicemails, going out to lunch, things that need to get done, but not quite as important. And if we do the rocks first, the most important, and then the pebbles, our jar now becomes even more full. And then we add the sand, Luke, which is, more of the menial stuff, let's say more organizational or more the busy work, but yet we become more and more productive because we prioritize what it is that we have to do. And at a leadership level, I would say that's strategic leadership, working with customers, having meetings with customers, sales, that kind of thing. Great question. Any other questions? So it's priorities.
Okay, I'm going to ask Amy Rieselman to unmute herself. Amy, there was something you wanted to see about the 10-minute miracle. Would you like to expand on that, please, Amy?
Oh, yeah, I think we got it down in the chat here. So,
So you're good?
yeah, I think we're good. Thanks.
All right. Eric, go ahead. Keep rolling.
Oh, all right, let's go. Thank you for the questions. Any others? Let me know. We're going to jump into the 6 laws of productivity. Why 6? Because that's all we have time for. I got about 25. You can catch me after the meeting here, but let's jump into the 6. The first law is to win the morning. If you win the 5 to 9, you will win the 9 to 5 every single day. How do we win the morning? Well, it starts the night before. I'm going to ask you to pick your bedtime. What do I mean by that? Whenever it is you have to wake up the following morning, count back 8 hours, and that is when you are to go to bed. Another huge mistake that I see people make when it comes to productivity is they fall asleep when they're tired. No, we fall asleep when we can get the 8 hours of sleep. These are not my, rules. This is not research that I have done. This is proven that we are the most productive when we have 8 hours of sleep. I understand that that is not always possible. Sometimes we get 5, sometimes we get 7, 6, but the goal is to aim for 8 hours. So here's our 4-step pre-sleep routine to make sure you're taking advantage of sleep. And if you ask me, sleep is your superpower. Number 1, you want to clean up the clutter both physically and mentally. Try not to go to bed with the dishes in the sink. You've got laundry everywhere, things just clutter. We want to make sure that when we wake up the next morning, we hit the ground running. Things are clean, allows for a better mindset, and we're ready to go. Now, speaking of mindset, we also have to clean up the mental clutter. Every day, we have issues, we have problems, we have anxieties, we have worries that collect. And I look at the mind kind of like a computer. If you use a computer without cleaning it out, without cleaning out the cache and the cookies, it tends to slow down. Same thing with our mind. Now, I carry a lot of worries and anxieties with me. Always have. It's just kind of my thing. So I see a psychologist to help me with that. And he gave me a wonderful technique, which I'm going to share with you right now. He told me, Eric, every night before you go to bed, some of those worries, anxieties that you have, I want you to put them in a red helium balloon and let that balloon or balloons just drift off into the sky. And for me, sometimes I have 1 balloon, sometimes I have 3, sometimes I have 33. But it's a little mental technique to allow my mind to release the things that are bogging me down so I can have a good sleep and my mind is fresh and out of clutter for the next morning. Next, set things out. One of the biggest time wasters is looking for things that are lost, particularly, and I'm going to jump into my pocket here, the car keys. How many of us are late for an appointment, trying to go to work, and you can't find the car keys? If you're like me, you found them in the car, on the car, underneath the car, in the door, whatever it may be. If you have an important meeting, pick out your clothes the night before. If you work out in the morning, set out the workout clothes the night before. We want to put things out again so we're productive in the morning. Next, take 5. This speaks to self-care. We're really good as business owners of taking care of our employees and our customers, but are we good when it comes to taking care of ourselves? Take 5 is you owe yourself at least 5 minutes each and every night to do what you want to do. Could be journaling, meditation, sipping wine, taking a bath, listening to music, whatever it is that's going to allow you to get into the right state for you to have the best kind of sleep. And finally, tuck in the phone. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because you already know how important it is, yet too many of us sleep with the phone right next to us. I'm going to recommend you put it in a different room. You can make a little bed for it, the whole thing, but here's what science tells us, that even the blue light on this phone is enough to distort the brain waves in our mind. New research just came out that the more time that we spend on our phone, it affects the gray matter in our brain, which leads to early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. Now, if that's not enough for you to take your phone and put it in a different room when you go to sleep, I don't know what is. Moving on. What do you do when you wake up? Well, first thing, make your bed. Why? Because now you've completed a task and you get in rhythm of completing other tasks throughout the day. Next, ask yourself, how can I serve? This puts you in the right mindset to serve your customers, your coworkers, and your community. Third thing, establish a morning routine. Please write this down if you're taking notes. We first develop our habits, and then our habits develop us. If you show me what you do on a daily basis, I can easily predict your future. We have to establish a routine because it gets us in rhythm. It builds a consistency. The number one thing that you can do when it comes to your morning routine is this. It is to create before you consume. Too many people grab the phone, go to the computer, and what do? They hit social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it may be. And you may tell yourself, oh, I'm just going to spend 5 minutes seeing what's happening. It is like a tsunami that will take you out to sea and you don't know where you're at. How many times have we said, I just want to do a quick feed check, 45 minutes later, you don't know where you're at, you can't remember what you did, establish that morning routine, create before you consume. Take that 4-minute cold shower. Why cold? Again, this is science. A cold shower is proven to help us in recovery if we work out. It increases blood flow, and it also increases energy levels. And finally, start on your Super 6. If you do this rise and shine morning routine, I promise you, you will be much more productive than you are right now. Law number 2, Parkinson's law. No different than it is very different than Parkinson's disease. There is no relation between the two. This is Parkinson's law. What is it? Parkinson's law is work expands to allotted time allowed. Look at tax time. We had it a few months ago. 1 in 3 Americans wait until April 15th when taxes are due before they start actually working on it, right? Why? Because they have all year to do it. Think about your last vacation. I'm willing to bet that you got more done in the 2 days before your vacation than in the 2 weeks prior. Now, why is that? Because there was a deadline, because you were forced into activity. When it comes to Parkinson's law, I'm going to encourage you to make it work for you rather than against you. How do we do that? We compress our deadlines. If you have a deadline 30 days out, compress it to 2 weeks out. Watch how productive that you're going to be. Compress deadlines. Another real quick story of how Parkinson's law worked against me. When I was in college, I was a sophomore, I was a finance major. I enrolled in a class that was very unique. In that class, we were given 1 grade and 1 grade only. And that was for a 100-page report that we had to turn in at the end of the semester. We didn't have to go to class. We didn't have to take tests, quizzes, nothing, all on 1 grade. And my finance professor said, okay, class, turn it in again at the end of the semester. You can start now. You can start whenever you want, but it's up to you when you begin. Now, you give a 19-year-old 3.5 months to do something. Imagine when I started that report. And this is before ChatGPT, the internet, and copy and paste. I started 3 days before I had to do this. Not smart. And so did all my other classmates. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have compressed the deadline and had it done in my mind mentally on my calendar a month and a half before it was due. It would have saved me a lot of stress. I would have done a much better job on it. I ended up passing the class, but it's one of the reasons why I'm now getting gray hair. Use it to your advantage. The next law, the law of diminishing marginal intent. This law states that the longer we wait to do something, the less likelihood that it will actually get done. Here's my routine. When I come home from work, leave the office, come home, come into the house, say hi to the wife, the 3 kids, right? Throw myself onto the couch, turn on the TV, get caught up, right? And of course, there's things that I have to do, but many times I'll say, oh, you know what? I'll do it later. Then an hour and a half goes by and I say, oh, you know what? I'll do it later. What happens every time I say that? Next thing you know it's 2:45 a.m. in the morning. Sports Center's on rerun. The dog's looking at me, breathing on me in my face, waiting to go outside. All these do it laters has brought me to a point where it never gets done. Here's what I'm going to suggest. Next time you catch yourself saying, I'm going to do it later, switch it, snap your fingers, have a pattern interrupt, and say, I will do it now. Because it's important to note, we don't get what we want. We get what we choose. And we must choose to do things now, not later. We have to have that urgency in order to be productive. The whole goal here is to do things when we don't feel like it. I'm going to give you some very quick tidbits and how you can take advantage of this law. These are my activity quick fixes. Number 1, do things quickly. Success loves speed. I cold call for a living. I have for 30 years. Here is my clicker. What I do is when I cold call, I see how fast with this clicker I can get to 50 calls, boom, and then I'm done. It forces me into action, and I do things that I don't want to do quickly. It's like peeling off a Band-Aid, and it's over with. I'm going to give credit on the second one to Mel Robbins. This is the 5-second rule. If there is something that you do not want to do or have to do, count down from 5, and before you reach number 1, you must move physically before your mind and your brain can squash that impulse. Whenever I run on the treadmill, which is every morning, and I hate running, I stand at the top of the stairs because my treadmill's in the basement, and I count down from 3, not 5. I count down 3, 2, 1, and I sprint down the stairs onto that treadmill. That's how I get my running in each and every day. Next quick fix, the 1-minute rule. If there is something that you can do, a task in 1 minute or less, my recommendation is you do it. It could be getting an appointment booked, for the physical, getting it booked online, do that. Responding to an email you've been putting off, get that done. Making that quick phone call or sending that text that you needed to get out. If you can do things in a minute or less, and it doesn't take you away from the Super 6, go ahead and do it. Next fix. Know that done is better than perfect. One of the biggest things that leads to procrastination is perfectionism. Most things that you will do in your life do not have to be perfect. Brain surgery, yes. But if you can get something done, get it done. Don't seek perfection. Next, take imperfect action. Listen, timing in life is rarely, if ever, ideal. Do you ever know those people that say to themselves, I'll be happy when I get married? And then they'll say, I'll be happy when I get divorced. People say, I'll be happy when I have kids. Then they say, I'll be happy when the kids leave. I'll be happy when I start that business. I'll be happy when I sell that business. They keep making excuses not to take action. We are successful, everyone on this call, because of one reason. We took imperfect action. We figured things out. Continue to take that type of action. Next, detach from outcomes. One of the biggest things that I see that stops people from taking action is they care too much of the opinions of others. Why? Most people aren't even thinking about us anyways. When I cold call, when I prospect for customers, I focus on the activity, not what they're thinking of me. I've been professional speaking for well over a decade. If I was overly concerned with what people thought of me on the stage, I'd never take that stage and give a presentation. So focus on the activity, not the outcome. And finally, seek progress, not perfection. What Ed did not mention is I'm a best-selling author. Here's a copy of my book, The Finer Things, which I believe is at the Fountain Square Library, if you wanted to check it out, if you're in the area. But the reason why this book became reality for me was that I sought out progress, not perfection. I'm a first-time author. I had no idea what I was doing with the book. All I did was one day say, Eric, start writing a sentence, then a paragraph, then a page. And by trying not to be perfect and focusing on progress, I was able to eventually write that book. And the same will happen with the tasks that you are trying to accomplish as well. All right, next law is the law of energy and good health. And Ed, just so I know, we're on law number 4. How much time we got? About another 10 minutes, I would say.
You actually have got, if you really stretch it, about 25 minutes, but 10.
Perfect. Okay, good to know. So I guess this would be a good time to open it up for questions then, if we got about another 20 minutes.
Okay. Charlie Palermo, you have a comment in there. You know the 5-second rule, but
Go ahead, Charlie.
Oh, I was just making a joke, Eric. I meant that I am familiar with the 5-second rule, but it's slightly different than the one that you had mentioned.
Oh, got it. If there's anything that can help the audience here, Charlie, feel free to chime in.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, because the mind is designed to keep us from experiencing pain. In a lot of things that we do in life, whether it's again dealing with that angry customer, cold calling, we sense that we're going to experience pain, but we have to act before our mind can suppress that impulse to take action. All right, anything else?
Yeah, Amy Rieselman. There is a question, Amy, from you in there. You want to ask it about when the Super Six starts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of struggle with the morning routine where I kind of feel like I'm slow and I take forever to make a breakfast and to make my lunch. Um, and by the time I feel like it takes too long, my morning routine with, working out, making breakfast, getting ready, making lunch, that I don't, before I get to the office, I don't do any of that super six. I mean, I am not waking up at 5 a.m. But are you saying like people, I mean, I've heard that whole, wake up early thing is the best thing for, or that's what successful people do, but just interested to hear your comment.
Sure. And thanks for sharing, Amy. I use the 5 to 9 for example purposes only. I'm in finance. My day technically doesn't start till 10 a.m. Technically. Now, obviously, I'm doing things before then. Whatever your schedule allows and works for you, work within that framework. The reason why I talk about a routine is because if you ever read the book Atomic Habits, which I recommend is reading for 100% of people if you want to be productive. But in the book Atomic Habits, it talks simply about what we do daily. Our routines determine everything in life because I'm going to talk about consistency in a bit, Amy, but find a routine that works for you. Experiment with it. But the one thing that I have found that works the best is having that routine planned the night before. So you mentioned making breakfast. Okay, is there something you can do to limit the friction of the breakfast? Can you identify in the fridge, what ingredients that you're going to need, the next morning, right? Can you put out, if you're making eggs, can you put out the pan or the skillet that you're going to need? Anything to reduce the friction, even when it comes to working out, right? Let's say if you go to a health club, all right, can you pack the bag with the gym shoes and the sweatpants and whatever it is the night before, put that out, anything to reduce friction, right? That may cause the morning routine to be extended. Does that make a
Yeah,
little bit of sense?
that's a really good point, and I am probably not doing as much night planning, yeah, for the next morning. So that is a good point. I'll see what I can find.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
count backwards and get to 8 hours because we want to wake up vibrant.
Yeah.
Our mind needs to reset itself. It's kind of like the control alt delete, on a computer that's not running well. People don't understand the power of the subconscious mind. It is
Mhm.
4 million times more powerful than the conscious mind. We have to allow our mind to reset through sleep, through rest and relaxation, so we can be productive the next day. This whole, oh, I'm going to sleep 4 hours and I'm going to be a workout war. No, bad, 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 bad. Try it.
No, I preach this sleep all the time to all my patients.
Yes.
So yeah, and I do walk that talk. So
Yeah. But Amy, I'm telling you, Atomic Habits, James Clear, it'll change your life. Anything else, Ed?
No, why don't you keep on going,
All right,
Eric?
good
Good.
stuff. Thank you, Charlie and Amy, for those questions. All right, law number 4. Law of energy and good health. Repeat after me. Your health is your wealth. As mentioned, I've been in financial services for the last 21 years. I can promise you there is not a rich person on this planet who has a serious ailment that would not give up every single last penny that they have in order to have their health back. You know it is true. We have to take care of our physical as well as our mental health. You cannot be productive if you are stuck in bed all day sick with ailments, either physically or mentally. Now, I know I'm simplifying things, and that's just because we don't have a lot of time, but we have to understand that whoever has the most energy is going to win in the marketplace. Because again, repeating here, productivity requires energy. Let's take a look at the six best doctors that are out there. You can see it on the screen: sunshine, water, rest, air, exercise, and diet. Output is determined by input. If we put good things in our body, we're going to produce good things on the output side. I take my car into the same mechanic I have for years, and he knows me well. He knows me so well that he knows when I put cheap gas in the gas tank. And he'll always tell me, he'll say, Eric, quit putting cheap stuff in your car. Because when I put the cheap stuff in, the car doesn't run as well. Same is true with our body and our mind. We have to be stewards of our body and our mind to make sure that we're resting, that we have that self-care. Look at it this way. You must invest in yourself first before you invest in your business, because you are the person running your business. And if you are run down and not operating in an efficient manner, I promise you, nor will your business. Self-care, to me, should be number one on your Super 6. How do we get energy? I'm glad you asked. Number one, having passion. You show me a person with passion, I will show you a person with energy. What we do in our business will take up the vast majority of our life. It's just plain and simple. Our careers, our professions, that's what we're going to spend the most time on. We must learn to find a passion for what it is that we do. My daughter is 17 years old, and she loves theater. She wakes up consistently 3 to 4 times a week at 4:30 a.m. to make it to theater practice every morning. And she doesn't need an alarm clock. She doesn't need mom and dad to wake her up. She jumps out of bed, boom, and she is to school. Why? Because she has a passion for what it is that she does. So learn to develop that passion in your career. Next, people. There are 2 types of people in the world. The people, when they walk into the room, the lights go on, and then the lights get brighter, excuse me. And the people that walk out of the room and the lights get brighter. It is important to hang around the people that who walk in the room, the lights get brighter. Why is that? Because we are constantly giving off and receiving energy every time we are around or interacting with people, even on this Zoom call right now. Everything is an exchange of energy, and we want to be around people that are excited for what they do, excited for life, have energy. And if there's toxic people in your life, I know you can't cut them out completely all the time. Try and limit the amount of time you spend. And next, the final energy input, we must engage in positivity, because positivity leads to productivity. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. There was a study that was done in which researchers, they wanted to predict people's ability in order to endure pain. So what they did was they had the participants in the study take off their socks and shoes and stand in freezing ice cold buckets of water. And as they observed the participants, they noticed that there was one factor that allowed certain individuals to withstand twice as much pain as others. And that one factor was this: they had somebody standing right next to them, giving them words of encouragement, being positive, saying, yes, you can. Now, let's stop for a minute and just think about that. If you want to be twice as productive in your career, in your life, this study has just proven that you need to hang around positive people, people that will encourage you, that will tell you, yes, you can. Yes, give you a difference of opinion when it's needed. I'm not saying, be around yes people all the time, but people that will encourage you and support you, and you will be twice as productive. All right, next law. We've got 2 to go. Law of leverage. Okay, this is huge. Leverage will maximize our productivity probably more than anything else. And I'm going to prove it to you. If you've ever seen the movie Interstellar, and if you haven't, that's fine. That's another thing I recommend that you do. But there's a line in there that haunts me every single day. And it's from one of the main characters that says, I'm not afraid of death, I'm afraid of time. Because that is the only thing we cannot get more of. But we can make better use of our time by leveraging other people and processes. Know this, that 90% of the success in your life is going to come through working with and through other people and processes. So let's dive into it. There's a picture of a gentleman named Mark Reckling. He's the all-American success story. He's the person on the right. Why am I bringing up Mark? Well, it's because he taught me two of the most important things in business, which is you have to love your people and you have to leverage your people. Now, Mark took Grand Appliance. He's a second generation business owner. And some of you on the call may have shopped at Grand Appliance, but he took one store with 2 employees. In over 3 decades, he grew it to over 30 locations, over 600 employees in 4 states. Now, the reason why I bring up Mark is because he was a personal friend of our family. He passed away a couple years ago, but I had an arrangement with Mark. Since I'm a professional speaker and coach, I would work with him on his speeches that he had to give when he received awards and talked to the media. And he in turn taught me about business and how to scale. Trust me, I got the better end of the deal. And it does go back to those 2 L's. Because this was me, the person on the right, when I started my career coming out of school. I started at Baxter Healthcare, and I was working well over 100 hours a week. Why? Because I thought, well, if I just work harder, I'll get promoted. I wanted to be the CFO of a Fortune 500 company. But I didn't take the time to see if I was working efficiently and in a smart manner. I was going nowhere fast. So how do we leverage? First, we want to automate everything we can. Too many businesses wait to automate. Anything that you can systematize, you need to do it in order to optimize. I used to schedule appointments over the phone. Now my clients and customers and prospects, they get a link, they schedule that way. I used to send insurance and quotes out, right, and process them manually. That is all systematized. People used to sign documents for me in person. Nope. Now it's Adobe eSign or DocuSign. Everything is systematized in order to be more productive. Whatever it is that you do in your industry, in your specific business, look for ways to systematize. And of course, that comes to working with AI. This is not a seminar or workshop on AI, but it must be talked about briefly here if you want to be productive. Ask yourself, what is your AI strategy? Do you have a clear purpose? Are you managing the people rather than the technology? Focus on your strengths in your business, not your weaknesses. Other people are strong in AI. Leverage those people and consider the processes involved. And I get this all the time. Eric, I'm against AI. It's going to take jobs. We're already using it. What was once science fiction is now reality. How many of us have said, Eric, Alexa, set the alarm for 6 a.m. Hey Siri, play dance music. This is just on the personal side. Now we need to bring it into the business side. How do we do that? Automate routine tasks. Use chatbots. Whatever you can do to get things automated. Leverage things by enhancing customer experience. I was just talking to a woman the other day named Barbara. She went to go see her doctor for her annual physical. As soon as she walked in, because of facial recognition, a voice came over the loudspeaker and said, "Welcome, Barbara. We're glad that you're here. Please proceed up to the second floor stairway, check in, and proceed to room 201. Now, did she have to talk to somebody? No. Could she? Sure. But she knew exactly what to do. She was more productive with her time and enhanced her experience. Next, use AI to help you make decisions with your business. Look at Good Friday. Or excuse me, Black Friday. I'm sorry, look at Black Friday. Day after Thanksgiving. What do retailers do when it comes to inventory? Well, they look at data based on AI to make sure that they have the right products in place. And finally, number 4, use AI to improve marketing in your sales efforts. What happens if you go on to Google and type in you're looking for a rental car, or on Facebook? Then the next 2 to 3 weeks, what is in your feed? Everything for rental cars. It is the new way that people are conducting business. We need to adopt it and embrace it. Here are some of the things that you can use. And I'm going to share with you a colleague of mine who uses AI in his professional speaking business. So if you think, AI is not for my business, or AI is not for my business, I'm here to tell you it is. So a colleague of mine uses AI to do the following. He analyzes website options for his business. He refines his emails using AI. He compares feedback on different sizzle reels to make sure he markets effectively. He prioritizes his business funding through it. He creates outlines for upcoming keynote presentations. If someone who sells his intelligence for a living can do it, we all can do it. Now, there is a warning. AI is not perfect. Here's another colleague of mine who used his headshot or who used this picture to create a headshot through AI. Now, this is the headshot that was created. This is what he actually looks like. Now, I asked him to share this, so you got to be careful. AI is not perfect. Make sure it is authentic for you. All right. Thank you, Joe, for allowing me to use that. All right. Next, delegate. This is one of the least utilized business tools out there. You should always ask yourself, should I be doing something? Because I love this quote. We should not use all the brains we have, but all the brains we can borrow. When you look at Steve Jobs, one of the most productive people in all of history, he has a delegation dogma, which is, should someone else be doing what I am doing? If someone can do something 80% as good as you, delegate it. Take it off your plate. You'll be more productive. So quick delegation sheet, excuse me. Determine what you want to delegate, who the right person is going to be. Make sure you explain the task, clarify the goals, and set timelines. So everything when it comes to delegation, if you want to be effective, or most everything comes before you delegate, and then very little of it is the ongoing support and the review. But delegate if you want to get more time back in your day. And finally, eliminate. Are we setting proper boundaries? Because not doing something will always be faster than doing it. We must have the power of no and the willingness to say no to things that are not going to make us productive. All right. And the final thing is we must learn to replicate. And how are we doing on time, Ed? I've got about 5 minutes left.
As soon as I can unmute myself fast enough, you actually got about 10 minutes left if you need it.
Okay. I'll try and finish in 5 or 6. Open up from questions, then I'll let everybody enjoy the rest of their evening. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. When it comes to leveraging yourself, a challenge a lot of people have especially small business owners, because we wear so many hats and a lot of us are type A, we want to do a lot of things on our own, is we don't replicate ourselves. What do I mean by replication? Well, we want to develop other leaders. We want to share what it is that we know so people can help expand our business. Last year, I had a chance to speak to Sauk Prairie Chamber 7 times. And when I was speaking to them, representatives from Culver's were in many of those meetings. Now, Culver's is a nationwide food chain. It's more prevalent here in the Midwest. But what they do very well, and what a lot of franchises do that are successful, is they replicate themselves. They find out what works, and they do it over and over again. And once they find out what works, then they can challenge it, then they can disrupt. But we have to find a successful process first. Now, when it comes to you as a leader of your business, focus on multiplication rather than maintenance. Too many leaders and small business owners just want to maintain what it is that they're already doing. That is how we lose customers. That is how we lose business share. It comes down to multiplying who you are and developing other leaders in your business. So if you want to multiply profits in your customer base, develop other leaders and not followers. Because here are the 5 stages of multiplication in every single business. It is this. Number 1, businesses fall into scramble mode, which is they hire an employee or employees, and because they don't train them and they don't build a culture, it's scramble mode every day, employees leave, and then they're back to square one. Next stage of multiplication is survival mode. They hire employees, they don't train them well, they don't build a culture, they manage to stay, but again, it's still survival each and every day, not how to run an efficient business. Most businesses that I see fall into stage 1 and stage 2. The third stage is siphon. Now we're getting somewhere. This is where you train an employee, but you don't build the culture, you don't build a personal relationship. And another company that's willing to pay that employee just a little bit more, they leave. Once again, you're back to square one. But then we learn. The fourth stage of multiplication is synergy. This is where, as business owners, we train properly, we build a culture, we develop professional and personal relationships, and then we have a successful organization, and the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And there is a 5th level, which is significance. This is where you develop a leader who develops a leader who develops a leader. That is the essence of multiplication. That is the essence of productivity. You have now replicated yourself. And the ultimate sign of multiplication is mentorship. And that's a two-way street. That is where you mentor others, and you are also mentored. The most successful business owners that I know all have coaches, all have mentors. And 80% of the Fortune 500 CEOs today all went through a mentorship program. That is the power, and Ed talked about it in the beginning. That is the power of learning from others and teaching things to others. So here's our quick checklist, and then we'll finish up. Develop your own leadership potential. Find people with leadership potential and hire them. Teach them to be a leader, to make difficult decisions, not just perform tasks. Multiply yourself. And let's get into our final law of productivity, which is consistency. If you are persistent in something, you will get it. But if you are consistent in something, you will keep it. We all know people that achieved a level of success and then they lost it. Why? Because they weren't consistent in their actions. The key to success isn't about talent. Yes, it helps. It's about consistent daily activity. I'm going to give credit to Gary Vee for this slide right here. If you look on the left, that's real consistency. Giving what you can at any given day. Real consistency isn't giving the 110%. There are certain people out there say, you got to give 110% every day. It's not possible. September 18th of 2023, I lost my father. September 19th of 2023, and the very next day, my middle son, Ben, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. It was 2 major blows to me personally. Now, do you think after receiving that type of news, I could give 110% to my business? Absolutely not. We give what we can when we can. That is consistency. All right, because consistency leads to compounding. Very quick slide here to show the power of compounding. If you take a penny and you double it every single day consistently, by day 30, you have well over $5 million. Now look at day 10, it's only $5. But if you keep having consistent action and the right action, I'm telling you, you will see results because it comes down to momentum. which is not breaking the chain, which is doing the things that you know you need to do in your business each and every single day. Momentum will solve 80% of your problems in business and in life. We have to have momentum. All right. In the bonus law, the law of coaching. What really changed things for me was when I got a coach, a business coach, a life coach, and a speaking coach. Because we all have blind spots. We all have things that we do not know. And coaching shortens that learning curve, allows us to maximize our potential. All right, so I'm going to stop things right now. I'm going to open it up to any other questions. And
Okay, folks,
Great
if you have questions, why don't we do this? Just raise your hand, hit that raise that hand icon, and I'll ask you to unmute yourself, okay? We don't want to have three people talking at the same time, but go ahead, hit that raised hand. No questions. Well, folks, if you are not inspired by what Eric did this evening, I don't know what else it would take to get you inspired. That was a really, really, really great presentation, Eric. And folks, I hope you walked away with something to help your productivity, your individual productivity, and apply what he said to business. So I want to thank Eric very much for volunteering his valuable time to us and sharing his expertise with us. And hopefully you got something that you can take away with this and apply, to what you're doing, either if you're starting a business or in business or just working for somebody and you want to be more successful. I thought this was a great presentation this evening. So, Eric, thank you so much. Luke, we're going to give Luke the last word here. Luke, do you want to unmute yourself? Go ahead and speak, please.
Yeah, sorry for monopolizing the
go ahead,
question,
Luke.
but this was a great presentation, and I appreciate everything that you said, and I agree with especially like what you mentioned at the end with coaching. And I'm trying to teach my son the same thing and telling him that, hey, take the shortcuts. And I totally agree. My question for you is, you mentioned your book, and I know this is something that I've been thinking about. Can you talk a little bit about how long it took you from like the idea of writing a book until it was actually published, and kind of like what was your journey and how long it took?
Yes, great question. I wanted to write a book my entire life. When the pandemic hit, I said to myself, Eric, if you don't do it now, it will never happen. So that was the catalyst, right? When the world shut down, I said, okay, now is my time. And it's pretty much what I mentioned before. I time blocked in my calendar, which we talked about, in the morning when I was going to write. And, sometimes it was in the morning, sometimes it was at night, but I made sure every single day I blocked out that time. And it was just literally sitting down, Luke, and expressing my ideas. And a lot of time ideas would come outside of the time block. I would jot them down, but I made sure every single day. Again, I cannot stress enough the importance of momentum and consistency to being successful in business and life. Every day I wrote ideas. I checked with my illustrator. And in 18 months, which had taken me, I've been thinking about it for 30 years. In 18 months, Luke, I got it done because I made a decision. I time blocked it. I put it on the calendar and I made a decision to do it. And I set the deadline. So it's basically what we talked about here tonight. I believe everyone has a book in them, but Luke, if you want to write a book, pick a deadline. Okay, whatever it is, 2 years out, a year, 6 months. Some people, I've talked to authors who say they can write a book in 8 weeks. I can't do that. Okay, I got too much going on. But some people can do it in 4 weeks. Whatever fits in your calendar, pick that deadline, maybe compress it a little bit, and go to work every single day, and that momentum will carry you forward. Great question.
Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Luke. Well, folks, reminder of one thing. I'll be sending you the recording of this. Eric is going to send me the slides tonight or tomorrow morning, hopefully. I'll get this to you tomorrow. And reminder, folks, remember he was talking about coaches and mentors? This is SCORE, guys. Come to us. We're free. you don't have to pay somebody to do it. We've got all the talent sitting here waiting for you. Even if you're saying we can help you with these things like productivity and things like that. It's another set of eyes looking at what you're doing. So again, thank you all for attending this evening. Really appreciate it. And once again, Eric, thank you so much. We'd like to invite you back sometime too for more of your presentations. These are excellent.
Thanks so much for
All
having
right,
me.
folks.
Take care, everybody.
Hey, I want to say something.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the presentation. It was very inspiring. Like everything you said is literally like the process in my life. I just recently graduated from Indianapolis University and received my doctoral degree in occupational therapy. And I want to, just like everything you said, like hit home for me, like the 6 steps and, just the 5-minute rule and, just making sure that I'm able to maintain a business. Well, mine is really a service, not more, not a business, but a service for the adolescents, giving them skills to become independent adults. So everything, I just want to say thank you. Like this call, I'm so glad I joined tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. It's great testimonial. Very good. Okay, folks. I'm going to wrap it up. Everybody have a good evening. Mr. John Segura, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call you in about 2 minutes, okay? Everyone, have a great evening. Take care. Bye-bye.